Erev Tov, everyone. Good evening. That's ancient Hebrew for stop talking. Erev Tov and good evening. I'm not going to shush you, but I will get you to shush yourself in a moment. I'll pull out the camp if you can hear me clap once thing, and that'll shut you down. You're wasting your own free time. I can say that too. Good evening and welcome. We are so glad you're here. We have a full program that's going to begin with some music. I'll just say just a couple of introductory things. Those that have not been to Temple Shalom before, first of all, welcome. I'm Rabbi Dan Moskowitz. Rabbi Carrie Brown is here as well. Our Rabbi Emeritus, Rabbi Bregman, is here, along with our Rebbitzin Emeritus, Kathy. We're thrilled to have you all. The washrooms, for those who are not familiar, are in the, I guess that's the southwest corner near the library. There are assisted listening devices if you need to be able to hear better. During the high holidays, many people took them off. It was easier for not hearing things. And I will just ask, I know we come here from many different places and with many different agendas, and I'll just ask that we respect the sanctity of this place and also this process, that we're here to have a listen and to ask some questions that you've submitted in advance for this evening so that we can hear from our speakers from Israel and to get engaged in this moment. So I hope that we can do that with respect and with dignity for the place and for the purpose. And with that, I turn it over to Laura and Charles to begin with some music.
Shalom Aleinu Are you tired of singing for peace yet?
Never. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Okay, we can do that. Ready?
עוד יש מפרש לבן באופק, מול ענן שחור כבד, כל שנבקש לו יהי. ואם בחלונות הערב אור נרות החג רועד, כל שנבקש לו יהי.
Lu Yehi, Lu Yehi, Panaru Yehi,
כל שנבקש
Lu Yehi, Lu Yehi, Lu Yehi, Panaru Yehi,
כל שנבקש
Lu Yehi.
אם המבשר עומד בדלת, תן מילה טובה בפיו, כל שנבקש לו יהי. אם נפשך למות שואלת מפריחה ומהסיף, כל שנבקש לו יהי.
Lu Yehi, Lu Yehi, Ana Lu Yehi,
כל שנבקש
Lu Yehi, Lu Yehi, Lu Yehi, Ana Lu Yehi,
כל שנבקש לו יהי. בקול ענות אני שומע קול שופר וקול תופים, שנבקש, לו יהי. לו תשמע בתוך כל אלה, גם תפילה אחת מפי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי.
לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי.
For our movement. ואם פתאום יזרח מאופל על ראשנו אור כוכב, כל שנבקש לו יהי. אז תן שלווה ותן גם כוח לכל אלה שנאהב, כל שנבקש לו יהי.
לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי.
Give us just a moment to reset the beat for a second. So once again, good evening and welcome. Much has been made of the fact that we are the first Canadian congregation to host leaders of the Israeli movement here in Canada. And when Haaretz and Canadian Jewish News published that, I heard from lots of my colleagues who said, well, we would have had them too if they had just told us they were coming. So, though we are quite proud to be the first to do that, I know that we are not the only ones who wanted to. And our proximity to Seattle and the fact that you could just drive over the border and get into Canada and to Vancouver, I think, is what helped make this possible, along with the incredible partnerships that we have with UnXetable, with Amenu, with JSpace, Arts of Canada, New Israel Fund of Canada, the American Israel Democracy Coalition. They say that politics makes strange bedfellows, but there is nothing strange about our organizations working together. We have tried to partner at every opportunity that we can to bring a dialogue about Israel, to bring an understanding of the challenges that Israel faces and the reality that it faces as well, through a lens of Zionism that is pro-Israel, that is pro-democracy, that is pro-human and civil rights. So it's a privilege and a pleasure to work with all of you. You'll hear tonight not only from Ora and Michal and Daphna in representing UnXetable, but you'll also hear in a video that Ora and Michal have brought us from some of the voices from the street, and also in a moment from Yossi Klein Halevi, who is our Temple Sholom Resident Scholar. He spoke during Rosh Hashanah. For 12 minutes, we've cut it down to 4.5. Not an easy thing to do, rabbis or anybody who speaks in the congregation. And so we'll share that with you just before our speakers. But I want to invite Daphna to come up now to share a little bit about UnXetable.
One. Okay, this is not a megaphone, but I can do it anyways. I'm going to read from the paper. UnXetable is a grassroots movement launched by a group of Israelis residing in San Francisco Bay Area in support of a democratic Israel. Israel is under attack on the basis of its existence, the Israel we know and love. In the face of the attack, unprecedented protests have risen in Israel and among many other Israelis around the world. From Vancouver to Sydney, we take part in the fight to stop the coup, to make our voices heard in the war for democracy. The foundation of Israeli democracy are being challenged by ultra-right-wing government led by a prime minister indicted for criminal bribery who decided to pass an overhaul judicial reform that will turn Israel from a vibrant liberal democracy into a dictatorship. Canadian Israelis, Jews, and Israeli expats will not stand silent. We want to support the ability of the Israeli people to recover from many years of divisiveness, culture of corruption, and fear-mongering used by Prime Minister Netanyahu, and reinstate the values on which the country was established: social justice and democracy. Our struggle is against laws aimed at institutionalizing racism and discrimination, against corrupt politicians who are determined to redefine justice undemocratically in a power grab. The regime change in Israel means a severe violation of the rights of minorities, women, LGBTQ+, Arabs, Palestinians, and others. We are concerned and we are... Okay, sorry about this. The new government will be able to pass any law it wants, for example, forcing gender segregation in public sphere and everywhere else, worsening circumstances to return to Israel, limitation on Western studies, and so much more. These actions will affect world Jewry. This is not about right, left, but about fatal and irreversible damage to democracy, the only form of government that allows and strives for democracy. The only reason that they have not succeeded yet is millions of determined protesters in Israel and around the world who have been fighting for 38 weeks in a row to save Israeli democracy. The Israeli and Jewish communities in Canada are part of this historical protest movement of people who love and care about free. I am proud to say that there are now 5 cities in Canada participating. We are fighting for a just and equal Israel. For the past 34 weeks, in Vancouver, we have been holding weekly rallies in Vancouver in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Israel. Relentless, peaceful demonstrations with committed partners, which I have had the privilege to meet, although at times we have our differences. We are all fighting to what we believe is right, and I'm proud to be a member of this group. We do it with a lot of concern and anxiety. We all share the same fear of the unknown. You might ask, how does this help Israel? Our movement has grown from 24 cities to 70 worldwide. Protesters in Israel welcome our support and solidarity. This encourages their fight. They are powered by being part of a worldwide movement, sharing their feelings that they are not alone. They are with the Jewish diaspora's support. This is important to them. Our movement had tied knots with Jewish organizations and synagogues who share the same values. Jewish organizations who are conducting business as usual are placing themselves on the wrong side of history. So what do we do about this? It was often said that international Jewish community should not dictate to Israel how to defend itself and run its own country. It is it is different now. We are now asking you to stand for the people of Israel. When we really love someone and we see that they are putting their own life in danger, we must say and do something to stop them. As Israel is making choices that could lead it to its own destruction, we must speak out and do so out of love. These circumstances are different from the defense issue and any other issues as we see an Israeli government that is undermining their own funding principles of democracy dedicated to peace, justice, and protection of minorities and human rights as it is Declaration of Independence, a government that rather seeks to divide the Jewish people. We cannot remain silent, and that's why we rally every week. Thank you.
My wife Sarah and I recently celebrated our 40th fundamentalism, far-right nationalism, and mere corruption. I have spent all these years writing and lecturing through North American Jewish communities, and I've always delivered one essential message, which is pay attention to voices across the spectrum in Israeli society, because there's truth on the right, there's truth on the left, in religious Israel, secular Israel, Arab Israelis, Jewish Israelis. In order to understand and really appreciate the complexity of Israel, you need to listen to the whole of Israeli society. And my position was always animated by a rabbinic dictum, which was Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chaim. These and these are the words of the living God. Until this year. Now in Israel, we're confronting a situation for the first time that I've experienced, where there are no two sides. There are no two legitimate sides. One side is trying to destroy the foundations of Israeli democracy, and the other side, the side that is in the streets every week for the last 37 weeks, sometimes more than once a week, waving giant Israeli flags, that side is trying to save the Israel that's embodied by the two flags on the bima. These two flags represent the entwinement of Jewish and democratic values. That is the Israel that the diaspora fell in love with, and that's the Israel that we're fighting to preserve.
כשאני מתקרבת לבית הנשיא ואני רואה המונים מגיעים, דגלי ישראל בהתלהבות, אני מתרגשת מזה בכל פעם מחדש. הרגשתי שהדברים הבסיסיים ביותר שאני גדלתי עליהם כדתייה, כציונית, בעצם עומדים פה למבחן.
הרגשתי שאני חייבת לצאת ולעשות משהו אקטיבי.
זו המחשבה הייתה שצריך להפגין בירושלים למקום שיש לו משמעות סמלית, מקום האולי סמלי ביותר בבית הנשיא.
ההפגנות בירושלים מכילות באמת את כל האוכלוסיות, כמו העיר עצמה.
אפשר לומר שחצי מהקהל דתיים, חצי חילוניים.
יהודים וערבים.
המון סטודנטים.
דמוקרטיה! כל מוצאי שבת הלכתי להפגין מול בית הנשיא בירושלים. הפסקתי ללכת להפגנות שהתחילה הידברות בבית הנשיא. ברגע שהסתיימו השיחות, אני חוזר להפגין, אין ברירה.
בירושלים חיים את ההבנה שמה שקורה בירושלים היום זו תמונת ראי למה שיקרה בישראל ב-20-30 שנה הקרובות.
אז אני באמת מזמינה את כל מי שרואה את הסרטון הזה וכל מי שהמדינה חשובה לו.
כל מוצאי שבת, חצי שעה אחרי צאת שבת, אנחנו בבית הנשיא. מוזמנות, מוזמנים, כולם ביחד להבין.
It's my pleasure to welcome Temple Shalom member Rena Visor to introduce our speakers this evening.
Erev Tov, Temple Shalom, in the spirit of Kaplan. Wow, it is so wonderful to see so many of you as we are echoing the voices of protest in Israel. Our family and friends who are fighting with all their might for democratic Israel. Tonight, we are delighted to host two guests, fresh from Israel, as fresh as possible. Michal Muzskat Barkan and Ora Peled Nakash boarded a plane just as Yom Kippur was out. They flew 17 hours to Seattle, rented a car, and arrived here just a couple of hours ago. In my view, they are the new Wonder Women. Ahead of Gal Gadot. Since I'm hosting Ora and Michal, I managed to get a few more details. They are frequent speakers at the protests representing the growing trend of active women in leadership positions in Israel. That is on the liberal side. Not so much on the religious, messianic side. Ora Peled Nakash is a software engineer. She lives in kibbutz near Haifa, Ramat David. She was the first woman to graduate the Naval Officer Academy, Kurs Chovlim. And she was the first woman to serve on a missile ship. Ora is a member of Forum Dvorah, Women for Foreign Policy and National Security. Ora is also a board member of the Naval Academy alumni organization Migdalor. Ora is married to Ori and is the mother of two girls. Michal Muzskat Barkan is a professor of Jewish education in the Hebrew Union College. She is the director of the Department of Education and Professional Development. She heads the Rikma program in Pluralistic Jewish Education in partnership with Melton Center for Jewish Education at Hebrew University. Michal is the founder and head of Teachers Lounge, a professional development program for Arab and Jewish educators in Jerusalem. She is a founding member of safeguarding our Jewish home, the Jewish-based protest, which she's attending weekly. Ora is married to Moti and a mother of 4. Both Ora and Michal have devoted most of their last 9 months to weekly protests, 38 in number right now. They have put aside their lives to the struggle to keep Israel a democracy. We are so glad that they have decided to make this long trip to share with us the struggle that they call Second War of Independence. Thank you.
So Gal Gadot couldn't make it, actually. I am tremendously excited. I've spoken in front of large audiences, but I think something here is very moving for me. So bear with me while my voice trembles, probably. I think I've got a presentation somewhere, which I desperately need now because I'm losing my words. Okay, so I'm going to talk for a few minutes about getting off the couch, and I'm going to share my personal story. I think this is definitely my most personal presentation in this protest so far, so let's go, DJ. My story starts early 2023, maybe even a few weeks before. This is me and my family just doing things families do. We went hiking. We celebrated Hanukkah with my in-laws. That's my younger daughter being a unicorn. Thanks, this is helpful. And, you know, life was relatively normal. I had my corporate job at IBM, Israel. And then things rapidly changed as Netanyahu, but actually Yariv Levin, Minister of Justice, announced a judicial reform. And that kind of got me off the couch, but I owe you some explanation. What happened between this event, the Umbrella Rally, January 14th was the second week of the protests. Habima Square, pouring rain for hours, people not moving, standing with their umbrellas, no electricity for hours, but still people not going home. Ended up delivering my first speech in this protest. And coming off the stage, other than taking a selfie with Ivri Lider, if you could recognize, which I'm a huge fan, that was a defining moment. So I don't know how many of you could read the writing in the background, but like the first logo coming with the protest, it says Tzav Shmone Ezrachi. So for anyone that served or knows about military service, Tzav Shmone means immediate report to your unit, and Ezrachi means in a civil manner. So this is, for me, this was the calling. This is report to your civil duty immediately. I don't think this brand really caught up later on, and I'm wearing a t-shirt that doesn't really have to do anything. I'll talk about t-shirts a bit later, but this is where this is all started. But again, we need to move on and see, how did we even get here? Next slide, please. Okay. So why me? So I think I need to roll back a bit. Next slide, and tell you a bit about my background. So Rina introduced a notable piece of information. Thanks, that's helpful. I grew up in, and still live in Ramat David. That's a very small kibbutz, which has a very big air base next to it, which is very well known. As a child, I could recognize and distinct different planes just by the sound of the engine. This is an F-16. And this all kind of like came up to a point where I decided, okay, when I grow up, I want to be a fighter pilot. But the reality back then was women couldn't qualify for fighter pilot academy until a defining event happened. Next slide, please. And Alice Miller said, I want to become a fighter pilot. Why can't I? She challenged the system in very interesting ways. I'm not going to get into all of it. But she ended up appealing to the Supreme Court, and then the court ruled in favor of Alice's appeal to qualify to become a fighter pilot. And that completely changed my course of life. Well, I didn't become a fighter pilot, spoiler alert, but I did become a naval officer. Kind of like in the same steps, following the same steps of opening equal opportunities for women in military service, actually a fight which actively going on these days. I was privileged enough to graduate back at 2000. I'll do the math for you. I'm 27. Well, maybe not. Next slide, please. I need to give you a bit of background on how the Israeli constitutional structure is built. I'm no expert in this, so I'll put it in my plain words. So in the core of everything, and we talk about this a lot, there's the Declaration of Independence. We don't have a constitution, so that's kind of like a foundational piece that acts as a constitution, and that's being challenged these days by the government, actually. Around that, we have the foundational laws. Again, we're seeing those being misused, abused, or mislabeled, whatever you want to call that. But there's no law or foundational law ensuring equality in any aspect. And the last ball in this game is the court rulings. And I just kind of like pulled out 3 key court rulings. You see the Alice Miller ruling kind of like in the middle there. But the first one, the top one, is the Danilovich ruling, 1994. That's for same-sex partners to have equal rights. Jonathan Danilovich was a flight attendant at El Al, and his partner was eligible for free plane tickets. In Jonathan's case, it was a man, and he wouldn't get the plane tickets, haven't the court ruled in favor of him, kind of like ensuring their rights. So that's for, I would say, for gay rights. And the last one there, the Emmanuel ruling, again, I kind of like cherry-picked just a few to highlight how fundamental the role of the Supreme Court is in defending civil rights, is about students, girls wanting to admit into a school, and because they're from a Sephardi background, they weren't admitted, so the court mandated or kind of like ruled the institution should let them in and could not discriminate them based on their origin or race. I'm not sure how to address that. Ethnicity, yes, thank you. Okay, so I told you this story, and you see on one side this young, somewhat shocked young naval officer, and on the other side you see me a few weeks ago in Jerusalem wearing this T-shirt, and then this question comes up. Okay, I took like this story from my background, and I'm using this, or kind of like tapping into that story that happened quite a while ago, and I'm using that as my voice or my gravity in this protest movement. And again, kind of like the question is, why? And I think I gave you kind of like the answer about this is something for me about the gender equality. So this is a bit of where I am in my journey. This is from June. I participated in a delegation the Celebrate Israel events in New York. Everyone remembers just that Simcha Rotman snatched a megaphone from a protester, but we did some other stuff there. So this is Brothers and Sisters in Arms. Just go one slide back. Brothers and Sisters in Arms, again, prominent organization, taking the subway together, and then meeting Trua, which are, again, an American organization, but they're also kind of like highlighting the fact that we're resisting tyrants since Pharaoh, which I find it hilarious and accurate. And I'm gonna kind of like fast forward and talk about, next slide please, about my connection and again, bringing it back to my personal background. So I'm a first-generation Israeli. My father is a Holocaust survivor, was a Holocaust survivor. He passed away. Came as a child to Israel, as an orphan child. And from the other side, I'm half American. My mother was born and raised in New Jersey. It's my left, probably your left as well. You can see my aunt, Debbie. She lives in Princeton, New Jersey. She lived in Israel maybe for a couple of years, but she's lifelong American. And she went to New York last week. She's protesting. And you got Aunt Debbie mad, so you're in trouble. And in the middle, I actually Googled my great-grandfather's name, Henry Rosenbaum, which I haven't known because he passed away at 1972. This is his obituary in the New York Times. And it says there, Henry was a past president of the Zionist region of New Jersey, passed away at the age of 84. He has 10 grandchildren. My mother is one of them. And then you see on the right, you see my family again. And this is us in Kaplan Street. Zohar, she's 8 years old. She's sitting on Oli's shoulders. And Yahav, my almost 12-year-old daughter, which is going to have a bat mitzvah soon, next to me. And I think this, again, kind of like highlights for me how personal this is. We have this Zionist legacy, heritage, theme, whatever you want to call that runs in the family. And fighting for Israel as a democracy, or fighting for Israel as a homeland, even when living outside of it, I think has run in a family for years now. So next slide, which is the last one. So this is my current mission. I quit my day job. I'm volunteering currently and trying to build this connection, coming from my personal story, getting off the couch, telling about what I think is important to do, and trying to reconnect with some of our bigger family we might have lost touch with over the years. So thank you so much for coming and listening. Happy to get to know you all a bit better and to share a bit our perspective on what's going on. Thank you.
Shalom, good evening. Okay, thank you. Thank you for having us and for coming. And my name is Michal. I'd like to share with you a little bit, of the story of the protest from the perspective of Jerusalem, because I live in Jerusalem and I'm one of the people who started the protest in Jerusalem. And so I will tell you a few things, behind the scenes and my personal connection to this. And you just saw so now what you see there is the day where everybody came to surround the Knesset after Gallant was fired. And we just were walking all together. People arrived from all over the country. So we felt
that we're kind of protecting the Knesset. So I'll please go to the next slide, and I want to go back to my personal background. I grew up in Petach Tikva in an Orthodox family, Zionist Orthodox family, and I was a very active member in Bnei Akiva. And you can see pictures of girls like me walking every Yom Yerushalayim, the day of liberating Jerusalem after the 67 war. We would come to Jerusalem and all night dancing and singing in the old city, and our heart was full of proud, and we put up the flags, and we were really we were so happy that Jerusalem is now liberated and of all of us. And one night, when it was like 4 o'clock in the night, I was walking there singing and happy, and I just looked up, I don't know why, and I saw a hand closing a window. And I said to myself, oh my God, someone is living there, and it's 4 o'clock in the morning. How come I didn't think about that? How come we are all here singing and shouting, and we didn't think that someone is living up there? So I think I want to put this. I didn't know at that time that it will lead me to do some change in the way I see things. But I think that was one of the moments that I can mark, looking back, that made a change inside me, because I saw something that I was blind before, and I saw someone else. So if you can move, please, to the next slide. I just tell you what I'm doing. I'm head of the education department at HUC. I think that moment led me to work on two main areas. One is pluralism in Jewish education, and this is the Rikma program. And the other one is bringing Jewish and Arab teachers together to start to study about each other and not being blind about each other. So in my professional life, this is what I do. I do believe that we are not the same. I do believe in pluralism, in multiculturalism, and I try to teach educators and rabbis at HUC to work towards these values. And then at January 4, our Minister of Law, שר המשפטים, how you say? Justice, yeah. Yariv Levin told us that he has a big plan, which we didn't know before that was the plan. In the elections, it wasn't so vocal that this is going to be the plan, to do a kind of revolution. And he had in his mind so many laws that he's planning to do, both in the area of the legal system. He want to ruin all the checks and balances between the three authorities. But it's not only that. They have this government, they have their ideas to change the rules in human rights and in religious norms, and in, to control so many areas and make them political, and to shorten the equality, to make lives now. And they really, if you see how they manage the budget, the Israel budget, so we feel they don't take care of the entire population. It's very sectorial. So if you want to look, just Google at this link, and you'll see all the plans. It's just horrifying to see what are the plans. So please go to the next. And I was just so sad. I didn't know what to do. I was sitting in my couch. This is my couch. and with my family. And I was so sad. I just didn't know what to do. And one of my friends, Guy, called me. No. He sent me, okay. So he sent me a WhatsApp saying, let's gather and think together, what shall we do? And I said, oh my God, I don't want to go there. What will we do? We'll just sit there and be so sad and say it's going to be terrible. And I said to him, maybe I'll come, maybe I won't come. And then he kept calling me and saying, please come. And he wrote me that WhatsApp. It was the day after. It was January 5th. And he said, I don't want to be there alone. Please come. He's a good friend of mine. He was the head of school. He said, I don't want to be there alone. Please come and help me think together with the people that will come. What can we do? So we gather and start talking and thinking, 50 people arrived to our JCC in Jerusalem. And everybody, we had to think, can we do anything? And we realized that, and we came up with this name, Shomrot v'Shomrim al Habayit HaMeshutaf, safeguarding our shared home. We said, it's not about left and right. It's not about religious, non-religious, reforms, Orthodox, no. Because we were very varied at that group. It's about safeguarding our home. We are living in a home, and we need this home to be a home for everybody. So we came up with this idea, and first weekend, we went, all of us, to Tel Aviv to the demonstration. And after Motzei Shabbat, Sunday morning, guys calling me saying, shall we do one in Jerusalem? Let's go outside to Jerusalem and do that. So can we go to the next slide, please? So we decided that we will demonstrate. We have to think, where should we demonstrate? So we decided we need to demonstrate just in front of the president's house. And why? Because we thought we need a responsible adult here, because what's going on is so terrible. Maybe the president, can he say anything? So we decided we will go there. And at the first weekend, a friend went to an electric shop to buy, the microphone. And I went to buy some flags in the HUC, Machne Yehuda. And we just opened a WhatsApp group saying, let's go on Motzei Shabbat in front of the president's house. And here you see me and my son, Amir, standing there with a microphone, and 3,000 people arrived. We didn't, this didn't help us. No one heard anything, and we even didn't know what we should scream. It was first time that we were outside. We felt we want to scream something, but we didn't know what should we scream. But people were really angry. And we decided we have a crowd in Jerusalem, and we need to protest in Jerusalem. So if you go to the next slide, we started gathering volunteers and thinking, how can we organize this demonstration? We don't have any money, of course, and we need to find flags. We need to think, how can we bring more people? So we open more WhatsApp groups. We open a group for discussions. We drove to Ra'anana to bring flags. We started thinking, how can we bring all this crowd? And if you move to the next slide, please. A volunteer came with this big balloon of the red. We call it HaKav HaAdom because we say no more Kav Adom, and this is kind of our one of our symbols in Jerusalem. And if you move to the next slide, please. So here I am, an educator, standing in the stage and talking to a huge crowd. And I said to myself, I never wanted to do that. I'm an educator. I'm not a politician. And I don't like to stand up there and talking to thousands of people. But as I say to my students, you should step up and say what you feel. And there's no one else. If I won't say what I feel, people wouldn't know that ordinary people, just regular people, feel so bad about this situation. And I don't want to run to politics. I just want everybody to know that we are in a terrible time for Israel, that we need to go out and fight for our values. So here I find myself walking up there and talking to the crowd. Please go to the next. And we decided in Jerusalem that we need to bring together all the groups that believe that we should fight for our shared home. So we try to create a coalition of groups that in regular days do not agree about many things. We have, if you came to Jerusalem to protest with us, you would see groups of the people against the occupation. They're very vocal. You will see groups of religious people. You would see the reform people. You would see the educators, many, many groups together, and we work hard for all of them to feel not so comfortable. We want them to know that we don't agree with each other, but we need to be together at this time, and we believe in Jerusalem that the solution is to create agreements, broad agreements, not to force anyone, but just to talk to each other and get to agreements about the future of Israel as a democratic and Jewish state. So here are the advertisements of every week, like I took 6 weeks. We're doing it 38, 39 weeks. So every time we try to bring to our stage, you'll see the people of all the groups in Israel. We bring Arabs, we talk about the occupation, we bring reform rabbis, we bring Orthodox rabbis, we bring, please go back, we bring Mizrahi people who are very angry about the country. We bring really people who do not agree with each other, and every Sunday we get some phone calls. Oh, it was too religious. Oh, it was too leftist. And we know that we're doing our job because we don't want people to be just silent and to take the lower mechane mishutaf. Common, yeah. Okay, now we can go to the next one. And so we have what's very unique in Jerusalem. We have lots of religious people. And we have also Haredi people with our group, Haredi people who do believe in democracy and does not like what the government is doing in the name of the Haredi people. Now you can see in this picture the people blowing the shofar. From the beginning of Elul, every Motzei Shabbat, people are coming to blow the shofar. And we have, you'll see there, we have a group of men and women, Orthodox and Reform, all of them together, and sometimes kids are coming, blowing the shofar. I think it's a very unique demonstration, blowing the shofar every week. Can you go to the next? Another important group that is now in a big pain are the teachers. Teachers who believe in democracy, they feel uncomfortable. They don't know what should they say in their classes or what shouldn't they say. We created a conference at HUC for educators and heard the pain of the teachers. And we now plan a process of professional development for teachers that will help them get the courage that they need to teach to be educators, to teach for the values of democratic and Jewish state. But it's not easy. People are afraid now that if they will say something that is not in alignment with the government, something will happen to them. So I can talk a lot about that, but I go to the next slide and tell you a little bit about the creativity of this protest. So one night we went to all the shops and put stickers on the milk saying it's going to cost us a lot, this revolution, because now all the budget is going to different things. Everything is going to be much more expensive. One day, people ruin a picture of a woman in Beit HaKerem, and the day after we decided, we asked women of all Jerusalem to send us pictures, and we created these posters with a picture of a woman and saying, "Lo timchaku oti," you can't erase me. And we went in the night and put it all over Jerusalem and in the bridges all over. And we have the Shana Tova gluyot from the protest, Shirbu Zchuyotenu, our rights, okay? And now in Sukkot, since we are in favor of creating agreements, and we're not, all the time we say, this is the government who tries to get us fight with each other. We don't want to fight with each other. So for Sukkot, we're doing a huge project asking people from all over Israel to invite each other to the Sukkah. And we created something to guide the discussion, even between people who does not agree with each other. And we have a huge coalition of people who sign, also people who are in favor of this revolution, because we feel that this government, while the government is trying to make us hate each other and be afraid of each other, we need to bring people together because people do not hate each other. And the Sukkah is the place where, we can feel that, thinking of Sukkot, everything, you go outside of your comfort zone and you're willing to bring ushpizin, you're willing to bring guests and to open your minds to them. So this is what we really believe we need to do now. Can we go to, thank you. So just say, we are reclaiming the symbols of Israel. This protest, the flag came back. And if, thinking of me when I was a teenager with a flag in the center of Jerusalem, now I feel that I go back to this flag, but I feel that with larger population, we try to see each other, even those people that we ignore them. And now we are very proud with the flags and with the Declaration of Independence. And please go to the next slide. So here's my family. And they're coming to the demonstrations. I'm up there, they can't leave me alone. So my youngest son, Ido, which you can see down there, is one of the leaders of the teenagers in Jerusalem. They're an amazing group who came out and was very vocal. And I just want to show you the picture that I most like when I'm standing up on the stage. He's there taking pictures of everybody. So I felt that while, I grew up thinking of only one group and thinking of, now that we have Jerusalem, we free Jerusalem, we should be very happy and have it forever. I hope that my kids know now that we're not alone, that we have partners, that we need to take care of each other, that this flag and this fight now is the fight of everybody, and they also should be out there. So I want to thank you. The next slide, please, and say Shana Tova. And for me, saying Shana Tova, I love this postcard of Shana Tova, because what makes the Shana, even the Shana, the so tough Shana that we had, what made it Tova was so many people who went out and were so vocal, fighting for the values of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state. So here you see, this is a barcode for safeguarding our shared home. We have a group in English. So every message that we send is translated into English, so people all around can be, updated. And we do want you to be updated. We feel that we are together in this fight, wherever you are. So you're very welcome to join us, and thank you.
Ora and Michal, thank you so much. We are inspired and we are in awe. I think I know the room well enough to say that this was more inspiring than the high holidays for us. This was terrific. We asked all of you to submit some questions because we felt that the room would be too hard for us to get to everybody. So we have a number of questions. I'm sure we won't get to all of them, but Daphne pulled them together from those that you submitted, as did the rest of our committee, and so I wanted to ask you a few of those if you'll take your time to answer them briefly. In no particular order, but I'll start with this. There was a question about cynicism within your movement about President Herzog's attempts to create coalition and to create some kind of compromise. And some of those here were wondering if you could explain a little bit where that cynicism is coming from.
So, do you hear me? Since I said that my organization did believe that Herzog should do something, we were very proud on him that he tried. And we weren't cynic about that, because I think I can understand why people be cynic, because people are really suspicious for the basic, what people do want, and if they're doing such a revolution, they would never do any agreement with us. And I'm sorry for those who are so cynic, because I think this is the direction we should go. We should really try hard to create broad agreements about the future of Israel. This is something that we need to practice. So I'm really sorry for everybody who's cynic. This is, the thing. I believe that, and my organization believes that. But I know that it's really hard to believe those who are continuing to doing this damage with those rules and even don't think of for one moment to give up. I'm happy that we had so many successes, and they did not succeed to do the entire revolution. But we have a long way to walk, and I'm afraid that just forcing them not to rule what they want to rule without creating any systems for negotiation is not good for the future of Israel.
So, Ora, if I can ask you, one of the questions we had was about the changes that you are starting to see regarding women's rights under the Netanyahu government and coalition. You have been a trailblazer throughout your professional career and now in the movement. Can you talk about the changes that you're seeing already on the streets and in Israeli society regarding women's rights?
Yes, please. Can I have your microphone?
You absolutely can.
I think this works better for me. Bonot Alternativa, the women's fight, I saw a red t-shirt there. Yay. Has been a prominent part in the movement. I don't know if you're aware of the Handmaid's Tale. Did I say it properly? Like the Mitzad HaShfachot, they put on the show, like they dress up, and early on they were like accused of being exaggerating, hysterical. We've never been hysterical, right? Or called that over the course of events. But in reality, that was kind of like trying to signal the danger to women as a minority. And the reality of what we're seeing is women have, in fact, being marginalized, even not in the rulings. I'm not going to get into the rabbinical judiciary and all that's going on. Put that aside. Just the atmosphere in a country which creates the legitimacy to marginalize women. Women are pushed to the back of the bus, literally. Young girls are being shamed for what they're dressed or things like that. So even, again, putting aside the formal acts that are being instated, just looking at how the country feels and acts under this threat of marginalizing women is very concerning. But I'm not going to leave you without any good news. The good news are that last week, with the cooperation of Forum Dvora, which Rina mentioned I'm a member of, The IDF has submitted their stand on a current appeal being negotiated by the Supreme Court, opening up more combat elite units for women. And the IDF official stand is, yes, we should open up Sayeret Matkal, like the top elite combat unit for women, because this is going to make our army stronger. So on the one hand, you know, bad news, bad events. On the other hand, some progress, some good news. But we want to make sure this is, you know, the good news are the majority and the reality. So just to leave us a bit more optimistic, hopefully.
Michal, you work at Hebrew Union College, my alma mater, as well as Rabbi Brown's and Rabbi Bregman as well, but you also work not only with North American students who are studying to be rabbis and educators and cantors, but also Israelis who are studying to enter into the rabbinate or into education, as well as other pluralistic movements as well. And so one of the questions that comes up is, what are the impacts that you're seeing and that you think you'll see in terms of changes for Reform, conservative, progressive Judaism, not just with professionals, but also just as that Judaism has lived on the streets in Israel?
Thank you. I think this is the best question, because I see really the change, because people are looking now in Israel for ways to be Jewish, really Jewish, but not Orthodox. I'm Orthodox, okay? I'm egalitarian Orthodox. But people are really looking for ways to live their Judaism. And the Reform movement, the conservative movements, and the spiritual streams that we see in the creativity in the area of Jewish tradition are out there. And people really now get it. And the rabbis, the Reform rabbis, the liberal rabbis, are all over the country talking in the demonstrations and being very vocal. So they're now becoming leaders that people can see them as role models. And I think also something about you and about the tradition of the Reform, all the progressive movements here in the state, in North America and in the United States, in Canada, of fighting for civil rights. And I think you make the connection of Tikkun Olam and thinking not only about Jews, but also about all those who doesn't have rights. And we can build on this tradition that you have it. You are role models for us, for fighting for human rights from the Jewish perspective. So I'm very optimistic also about this mutual relationships. We do need you, and I hope you need us for thinking about the future of the Jewish people. And I think this is direction.
Thank you. Very well put. So you both said that you're not interested in politics at all. My mother once said, a rabbi's a terrible job for a Jewish child, so I get it. But at the same time, we look to the movement and we look to the leaders of that movement and we say, here's the voices that we've been looking for in the streets of Israel, in the center, and in the just to wake up and to get off their sofas. What do you think are the possibilities that some of the new leadership that will come into the political sphere will come out of this movement, and what's the conversation about that happening now?
So first of all, every time I'm asked about, okay, are you going to politics? I remind my friends asking me about this. I was in the financial committee of my kibbutz, which is like 200 people, and I didn't last the second term. So I'm probably not your person for that on a very personal level. I'm not political material, I guess. But more seriously, I think, yes, we're very optimistic because, again, we are the people we've been waiting for, right? So, and I think there is an acknowledgement, definitely from my perspective, that an entire generation has neglected the public sphere, probably in an attempt to build ourselves a better economic and, just a family life and things like that, because Israel is hard, let's admit it, and expensive. So I think now we are seeing a shift. You could observe or notice the changes happening in the domestic or like municipal elections, which are going to take place by the end of October. There's definitely an uprise, rejuvenation of the parties, more candidates, more women candidates than ever, running for mayors and local office positions. Having said that, we need to think about the Knesset, right? That's where things are happening. So first thing to keep in mind, there are no elections on the horizon yet, right? So if we start talking now about, okay, who are you gonna vote for? Or we see polls on the news, that's very theoretical because there is no election set. This government is at stronghold still. The other thing to consider is, again, how do we translate the masses and the consensus from the street to a political movement? And that's not an easy act to do. I don't have any answers. I'm just kind of like trying to translate the big question to smaller, more concrete questions. And I think, again, I've had these conversations with people leading in the protest movement. Some of them do have political aspirations, but I think now is about like the time to build the platforms. On top of them, they're going to build probably the parties that will probably run when we have elections. One major concern is to make sure the government and the coalition aren't meddling with election rules, which is another concern. So hopefully we're going to have another election soon enough and new voices and parties to represent us there.
Or I'm going to ask you another question, although you're both welcome to answer it. You're wearing a T-shirt that says female naval officers refusing to serve or something like that. Fighting for democracy, yes. I didn't want to look too closely where the shirt is, and I just very quickly looked at that. But I'm hoping that you can tell us a bit more about the movement within the IDF and amongst your colleagues, where this is coming from, what the justifications are, and what you're hearing from your fellow soldiers.
Okay, my flight leaves Thursday. I think I could cover all you asked by then. Really, that's a huge topic, seriously. Short answer, on a very personal level, I've been volunteering for reserve duty in the past 3 years since COVID. And I paused my volunteering given the situation. Again, this is a very personal decision. There was no one encouraging people to stop the volunteering. The reason reservists stop volunteering, and let's face it, serving in reserve duty is actually volunteering. Even if you're in the age you're still supposed to do, a very small fraction of the society or the public in Israel actually serves in miluim, in reserve duty. So no one is a refusist or sarvanim. No one is. These are people that decided, again, speaking for myself, that the level of trust you need in order to obey orders coming from higher above the army or your chain of command has been breached. Like, we don't have trust in order to carry out. And I don't know if you saw 60 Minutes. That was a big story. Shira is a close friend of mine, Shira Etting, fighter pilot. So again, this is a very loaded topic. I could talk all night about it, and I'm not sure we want to do this. Let's wait for Shavuot. We'll do it then. And let me just say that the IDF, the army of the people, the idea or the notion of everyone serves that has been completely meddled with. And it's been eroding for years, but it feels like the recent events was really just, shoving it down the toilet. Sorry for using that metaphor. But in reality, you cannot expect people to serve in goodwill and donate their time and skills and life and health, while at the same time you call them names and you say they're ugly things I'm not going to get into, but you say they're cooperating with enemies. That's just not done, right? That's unacceptable, as the movement called itself. So again, a very loaded personal topic. Happy to engage in it further, but I'll give you back the mic.
So I have just two more questions before we, okay. Well, they're really for either and both of you, I guess, which is that, what do you think is going to happen over the next weeks and months? As the Knesset comes back into session, as this court case makes its way now to some kind of decision by the Supreme Court, I know none of us have a crystal ball, but you're there and on the ground, and you're amongst your tens of thousands of fellows in the streets. Tell us what's going to happen. Please tell us what's going to happen.
Okay. Peace, love, and understanding. This is what's going to happen. I don't know. There's so many options now. You can just go and read what smart people that are willing to say something about the future. I know I can say something about the protest, seriously, and I believe that this Knesset, they don't feel that they don't have any sense to stop what they want to do. So we will need to fight, to continue fighting. And I can tell you, we've been there like almost 10 months, and volunteering 10 months, it means that I don't have life. Coming here was easy, because, I didn't do what I have to do with all my group is now working for Sukkot, working for the next demonstration. We do that like 20 hours a day. This is what we do. So thinking about that we need to continue fighting and bringing people out to the streets, it means that we need to increase our power and to support our people who are working so hard, and even find some people that will do that as their day job, because we can't continue ruining all of our work. I'm a professor of Jewish education. I have to work in this. So I think we need to think how to make the system more strong so we can continue with this spirit. We will continue volunteering, but we may need to think creatively how to support all our volunteers and how to make some of them to get some salaries, so they will do that in day and not only in the night. And I'm sincere in this because I'm thinking about my organization. I'm thinking about my people. They're really creative, they're amazing, they're now working day and night to bring all the people to host in their Sukkot, but they will be exhausted, and we have to continue creating all those demonstrations. So it's ongoing thing. And this is the same in all the country. And if we need to, and even people who are not organizers, they don't have any Motzei Shabbat. Every Motzei Shabbat, they have to put the shirt and go out. Nothing else can happen in Motzei Shabbat. So people were, hesitate to take a vacation in the summer because who will be there out? And we need to be, we need to continue because we know that it affects. So I don't have an answer of what this government is going to try to do. I have an answer. We need to be there, and we will be there. We won't give up, and we will continue fighting, and we will continue educating our kids. But But I want to say, we need all of you to come to be with us in any way that you can. So just be creative and think that if this is important, we need to be there together. I don't know in what ways.
Yeah, just to add to what Michal said, I think kind of like looking more holistically, the movement is maturing. Like this is a maturing moment. Again, as Michal articulated, we can't keep on doing this as, a side gig. So as the movement is maturing, we're seeing more organizations organizing, fundraising in a sense that they're building professional organizers, like building the ranks of the organizations, because we're in this thing for the long run. Like, it's funny, you look back, you find like a webinar from March, a psychologist, a leading psychologist in the movement is saying, we know this is long, that was March, right? We thought then it was long. And again, looking kind of like in the crystal ball and seeing this is probably something that's gonna take months to years, probably. We do need to restructure and to reorganize. And again, I could speak about the organization. I'm with the America-Israel Democracy Coalition. We're now building connections and looking to engage in a similar way, hopefully, as meaningful as this one, with thousands of communities, because we want to scale this up. Like, we understand we need to expand, we need to reach out, we need to be more systematic about the way we're building our connections and, our communities and our crowds. So, as Michal said, we need you on board with us. Thank you.
The head of the police, he said that from the beginning, 7 million people in Israel went to demonstrate from the beginning. And we had one of the professors in our demonstrations saying that he explored all the resistance movements, and he saw that this movement and this resistance was the longest. So to be resistant such a long time, we need to be resilient. We need to continue gathering people together, and we need to believe that everyone, really everyone, can get out of the couch in any way. But we have to believe in ourselves, because we weren't professional demonstrators before.
So thank you. My last question before we wrap up our program this evening is, what specifically do you need from us? What can we do to support you?
Okay, so first, our first task, I think, is to listen. And for that, we're very thankful for the time and attention you've spent with us this evening. This is heart-opening for me. I'm sure I speak for Michal as well. The second thing is, after you listen, you learn. You educate yourself. You start being vocal about it. You bring the information and voice it in your circles. And then it's a community effort, actually. As a community, how do you want to stand in light of events? We don't have the answer for you, because we're not here to tell you what to do. As Michal said, we need your advice, we need your help, we need your wisdom and experience. And you know your community better than we know. It's your community. Like, we have a shared connection, but you would come up probably with better ways than we would to how to support, how to engage, how to take part. But just to leave you with two ideas, because again, we can't, as a group of Jewish people, we will not go out without talking about money. That's, when we tell it about ourselves, it's okay, right? Okay, so number one is, I would ask each of every one of you to take a hard look at how are you supporting financially current causes, and to make sure that they are in line with your values Because the fact is, we've seen a lot of this coup has been funded by good-intended people that actually thought they were supporting Israel, but they weren't aware of which kind of Israel they were supporting. So start by, I would say, kind of like an audit to make sure that the causes you're currently supporting are in line with the values we're talking about. And I don't think I'm going to get a better round of applause, so I'm going to pause there. You can think about the second half of what to do with the money, in case it's not what you wanted to do. And thank you again.
I think I said what what I expect and hope. I hope really that you get to learn and listen and join us in our protest and come to Jerusalem, come to Israel, join us. Be with us in Facebook Lives. A live stream. We have it every Saturday night, and talk to your friends and family and kids and think together, because with being alone and just being terrified about the situation is not the best idea now. But I feel that being together in this brings so much force and creativity and will really help the future of Israel. And we feel we talked about that we are doing it for ourselves, but also for the next generation, for our kids. So when they will ask us, did we do anything when this happened? We are in a historic time. We can't just say, okay, it will pass. So I do believe that we are in a historic time, and each of us that really care for the future of Israel, for the future of the Jewish people, can we be proud of this democracy? So, you will have the answers, and think about that together, not alone.
Okay, now I feel much better standing in front of you. I had my first shot, and now I can speak freely. I'll probably repeat some of the things Ora and Michal said about call to action and what we can do as a community. Israel is home. Israel is family. Israel is a relative which you might not see very often, but will always be there for you. We have all come to realize Israel's importance of existence in our own personal ways. With 7 million out of the world of 16 million Jews living in Israel, if you care about Jewish peoplehood, you must care about Israel. If you care about human rights and the Jewish people having a place to go to, you must support Israel and strengthen Israel. If you care about democracy flourishing around the world, you must care about Israel's democracy. I will quote Shikma Bressler, one of Israeli protest leaders, and this is a quote. We can either fall into a very dark, extreme, racist place where the Israel that we know in all its social and economic aspects will be destroyed, or we can build a new, stronger, better democracy for the good of all the people. What can you all do? Get involved. Learn about Israeli politics. Get involved. Talk to your friends and family about Israeli democracy. Take action. Attend rallies. We meet every Sunday at 12 p.m. on 41st Avenue and Oak Street. Sign petitions. Wear democracy T-shirts everywhere. You'll be asked, what is this about? What is the reason you're wearing? Become an ambassador in your congregation and your community. Host a parlor meeting and invite your friends. Donate to Israeli pro-democracy organization. However, careful who you donate to and to whom the money is going to. We can no longer be naive to where it is going. Join our WhatsApp group or mailing list. There's so much you can still do, and not say it's happening over there. It's also here. It's happening here, and each one of you can help us. I want to thank our guest Michal and Ora, making all that way from Israel, just arriving a couple of hours ago and coming here. I would like to thank our sponsors, ARZA Canada, JSpace, JIF Canada, and Amenu. And all the team, our first very fierce team of members, Dalit, Rina, David, Ornit, Edna, Gidon, and Noga, which are not here. Thank you, Rabbi Dan, for hosting this event with us. May we have more discussions such as these ones in our community. It's very important that we do. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much, Daphna and Michal and Ora. Really an honor to have you here. I'm Rabbi Carrie Brown here of Temple Shalom. Before we conclude, we wanted to, first of all, bring our voices together in prayer and song once again. And so I share on behalf of our congregation this prayer for the state of Israel. Avinu shebashamayim, tzu Yisrael v'go'alo. Barech et medidat Yisrael reshit smichat gulatenu. Hagen alea be'evrat chasdecha, ufros alea sukat shlomecha. Ushlach ocha v'amitcha l'rosheha, sareha v'yoatzea, v'taknem be'etzah tova milfanecha. V'natata shalom ba'aretz, v'simchat olam liyoshvea, v'nomar amen. Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbors, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision of the prophet Isaiah. Through justice and righteousness, Israel will be redeemed. Amen. I'll invite everyone to please rise as we sing together Hatikva. Kol od balevav penima nefesh Yehudi Ho'iyah Uvate Mizrach Kadima Ayin LeZion Sophia Olo Avda Tikvatenu Hatikva Shnot Alpayim Liot Am Chofshi Be'atzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim Liot Am Chofshi Be'atzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim.
We want to invite the other partner organization, the leadership of those organizations, to join us here on the Bima as we join together in one closing song. And Reb Laura, if I could ask you to help us with guest share.
כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד. כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד. והעיקר לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר לא לפחד כלל. כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם כולו, גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד.
We thank you so much for being here. We thank all of you so much for being here. Please take a moment at the tables in the social hall as you're having your coffee and your cookies to look at the information that's provided there to speak with Ora and Michal. And to all of us, we wish a Shana Tova, a Shana Shalom.
She's one of the protesters.
Yeah. But she's organizing on the kibbutz.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh my God.